Good evening, friends, and welcome to Starlight News. I'm your host, and it is just wonderful to have you with us tonight. Before we begin, I want to ask you something. Where are you watching from tonight? Are you in Tennessee? California? Maybe you're up in New York or down in Florida. And here's what I really want to know. Do you remember the first time you ever heard Elvis's voice? Maybe it was on your parents' radio. Maybe it was that moment you saw him on the Ed Sullivan Show. Take a moment right now and write it in the comments below. Tell us where you're watching from and share that memory. Because tonight, we're going to talk about a side of the king that not everyone knows about. You know, in a world that sometimes moves a little too fast, we like to take a moment here to slow things down and remember the stories that truly matter. Stories of kindness, of generosity, of the human spirit at its very best. Tonight, we take you back to a warm summer afternoon in Memphis, Tennessee. The year was 1975. Disco was on the radio, bell-bottoms were in fashion, and a man they called the King was about to do something so extraordinary, so generous, that it would become the stuff of legend. They called him the King of Rock and Roll, but tonight, we reveal why Elvis Presley was also the King of Hearts. Close your eyes for just a moment and picture this with me. It's a beautiful July day in Memphis, the kind of day where the heat shimmers off the pavement and the air smells like honeysuckle and summer. The sun is shining down on Madison Avenue, and at the Schilling Lincoln Mercury dealership, the Cadillacs are gleaming like jewels in the afternoon light. Can you see them? Chrome bumpers so shiny you could see your reflection. Leather interiors with that wonderful new car smell. Sky blue, candy apple red, canary yellow, pearl white. Each one a beauty. Each one a dream on four wheels. And into this ordinary Tuesday afternoon walks Elvis Presley. Now, Elvis had been there earlier in the week. He'd bought himself a Cadillac. A beautiful Eldorado, black as midnight with all the trimmings. But something happened that day, something that would change the lives of 14 people forever. According to those who were there, and these are folks who swear on a stack of Bibles that this is exactly how it went down, Elvis walked in with that famous smile of his. You know the one. That smile that could light up a room. That smile that made millions of hearts flutter. And he looked around at all those beautiful automobiles and said something that made the sales manager think he must be pulling his leg. He asked, in that gentle southern drawl, how many Cadillacs they had on the lot that day. The manager, a fellow by the name of Howard Massey, looked around and counted them up. He said they had about 14 beauties, all ready to go, all waiting for the right owner. And Elvis, with that twinkle in his eye, the same twinkle you'd see when he was about to break into Hound Dog, said words that no car salesman had ever heard before or since. He said he'd take them all, every single one. Now, friends, you might be thinking this was just a wealthy man making an extravagant purchase, maybe showing off a little, but here's where the story becomes truly beautiful. Here's where we see the real Elvis Presley. He didn't buy those cars for himself. No, sir. He bought them for people. Real people with real lives and real struggles. People he knew, people he'd just met, and some very special people he never even met at all. Let me tell you about some of them. There was Minnie Person, an elderly woman who worked at the Veterans Hospital. She'd spent her whole life taking care of others, our boys who came back from war, men who needed comfort and care. And she'd mention, just in passing, to someone Elvis knew, that she'd never owned a new car in her entire life. She'd always driven used cars, hand-me-downs, vehicles that had seen better days. That afternoon, on that warm July day, Elvis walked up to Minnie Person and handed her the keys to a powder blue Eldorado, brand spanking new, still had the sticker in the window. One witness who was there that day recalled that Minnie just stood there with both hands over her mouth, tears streaming down her face. She couldn't speak, she couldn't move, she just kept shaking her head like she couldn't believe it was real, like she thought she might wake up any moment and find it was all a dream. But it wasn't a dream. It was Elvis, being Elvis. There was Dr. Gerald Starkey, a kind local dentist who'd taken care of Elvis's teeth over the years, never charged him extra, never sold stories to the papers, just treated him like anyone else who walked through his door. That day, Dr. Starkey drove away in a cream-colored beauty with a red interior. One car went to a police officer Elvis had known since childhood, a good man who'd always treated the Presley family with respect, even back when they didn't have 2 nickels to rub together. Another went to a woman from Elvis's old neighborhood, someone who'd always been kind to his beloved mother, Gladys, someone who'd brought over a casserole when times were tough, or watched young Elvis when his mama needed the work. But perhaps, and I have to tell you, this part of the story just gets me every time, perhaps the most touching moment came when a young bank teller, a sweet girl just trying to make her way in the world, simply mentioned that she loved the color of one particular Cadillac in the window. She wasn't asking for anything, she wasn't hinting, she was just making conversation, just being friendly, just admiring something beautiful the way we all do. She said to her friend, "Someday, maybe, you know how we talk, someday when I've saved enough, someday when things are easier, someday." Well, Elvis was standing nearby and he heard her. He didn't say a word to her right then. He just walked over to Howard Massey, the sales manager, pointed at that gorgeous canary yellow Cadillac, and said, "That one's for the young lady." Just like that. A secretary who worked at the dealership remembered the whole thing. Years later, she said she'd never forget it as long as she lived. She said that young woman had come in on her lunch break from the bank just to look around, just to dream a little. And when Elvis put those keys in her hand, when he folded her fingers around them and told her the car was hers, she just stood there frozen. Then the tears came, and she wasn't the only one crying. The secretary said everyone in that dealership was wiping their eyes, grown men, salesmen who had seen it all. And you want to know the most Elvis thing about the whole situation? He didn't want any fuss. He didn't want cameras. He didn't call the newspapers first. He simply told that young lady, "If you like the color, you should have it. Life's too short to not drive a car that makes you smile." Can you imagine? Can you imagine being that young woman, going to work that morning like any other day and coming back from lunch with a brand new Cadillac? One by one, Elvis gave away all 14 cars. 14 Cadillacs, 14 strangers and friends, 14 families whose lives were changed in an instant. 14 stories that would be told at dinner tables and family reunions for generations to come. In the days that followed, word spread like wildfire. You couldn't turn on a radio or pick up a newspaper without hearing about it. They called it the Great Cadillac Giveaway. Some people couldn't believe it. They thought it had to be a publicity stunt. But the people who knew Elvis, they weren't surprised at all. They'd seen his generosity before. They knew his heart. When reporters finally tracked Elvis down and asked him why he did it, why he spent over $140,000 in a single afternoon, and friends, in today's money that would be close to $1 million, his answer was as simple as it was profound. He said, "I remember what it was like to have nothing. I remember living in Tupelo in a house so small you could barely turn around. I remember the people who were kind to me and my mama when we didn't have anything, when we were nobody. And if I can make somebody's day a little brighter, if I can help someone who's been kind or just needs a break, well, what else is money for? You can't take it with you." 14 cars, 14 lives touched, but the ripple effects. Oh, the ripple effects went so much further. That police officer, he drove that Cadillac for 15 years, and every single day he told someone the story of Elvis's kindness. Every single day he tried to pass that kindness forward. That young bank teller, she went on to become a manager, and she made it her mission to help young women starting out just like someone had helped her. Dr. Starkey, he started a fund to provide free dental care to children whose families couldn't afford it. You see, friends, kindness doesn't just stop with one act. It spreads, it multiplies, it echoes through time. Elvis Presley gave the world so much. He gave us music that made us want to dance, to fall in love, to dream. He broke down barriers. He brought people together. But on that July day in Memphis, he gave something even more precious.
he gave us a reminder that kindness doesn't have a price tag, that generosity isn't about how much you give, but about how much love you put into the giving. That remembering where you came from doesn't mean staying there. It means reaching back and helping others rise up too. The king of rock and roll showed us that the truest royalty, the kind that really matters, doesn't come from crowns or fame or fortune. It comes from how we treat our fellow human beings. It comes from seeing someone's dream and making it come true just because you can. Now, before we close tonight, I want to ask you something, and I want you to really think about this, really sit with it for a moment. If you had that kind of success, if you had reached the heights that Elvis reached, if you had the money and the fame and the ability to change lives with a snap of your fingers, would you have done the same? Would you have remembered the people who were kind to you? Would you have given away
14 cars to people who needed them? Or would the fame and fortune have changed you? It's easy to say we'd be generous. It's easy to say we'd remember where we came from. But when the spotlight's on you, when everyone's calling you the king, when you can have anything you want, would you still have that heart? I hope so. I truly hope so. And I think if you're watching this tonight, if this story touched your heart, then yes, you would. Because kindness recognizes kindness. So write in the comments and tell me honestly, what would you have done? And more importantly, what can you do right now, today, in your own life to pass forward that kind of kindness? You might not be able to buy someone a Cadillac, but maybe you can pay for someone's coffee. Maybe you can help a neighbor with their groceries. Maybe you can just tell someone who's been kind to you that they made a difference. From all of us here at Starlight News, remember this: in a world where you can be anything, be kind. Because you never know whose life you might change with a simple act of generosity. You never know how far that ripple will spread. Thank you for watching tonight. Thank you for being part of our Starlight family. And don't forget to tell us in the comments where you're watching from and what memory you have of the King. Good night, friends, and God bless. We'll see you next time with another story that reminds us of the very best of humanity.